O kia ora mai tātou, tēnā koutou katoa, nā mihi mahana ki e koutou katoa. Thank you so much for coming out on this rather dark, wet night to the Tauranga Public Lecture Series. Ko Lynda Johnston tōku ingoa. I am one of the speakers, but in fact, at the moment, I'm your MC. So bear with me while I give you some housekeeping pointers to ensure that you have an enjoyable time here tonight. We have, just check your phones that they're on silent. Thank you. Either switched off or silent. Take a moment to locate your nearest exit, which may be behind you, which will be behind you. And these are indicated with the green exit signs on the two doors that you came into. We also have an exit along here beside us. The toilets are located outside and left down the end of the corridor, turn left. We're a smoke-free venue. And finally, if there is a very unlikely event of an emergency, just ask and follow our instructions. The staff will tell you where to assemble on level 1. So that is the housekeeping issues out of the way. So it gives me great pleasure now to introduce the lead researcher for this project. Dr. Bronya Dean is a lecturer at Te Wānanga Toi Tangata, the Division of Education, and Bronya's research focuses on the musical experiences of children at home and in the community. She has a professional background in arts management and early childhood music education. Her research interests straddle these areas. Now, Bronya's doctoral research explored the spontaneous singing of 3- and 4-year-old children at home and how they use singing as a tool of agency. Recent projects include an inquiry into professional musicians performing in early childhood education settings and international collaboration investigating mothers' perceptions of their infant-directed musical activities and an analysis of infants' musical experiences from data collected as part of the Growing Up in New Zealand longitudinal studies. You may recognise Bronya also, particularly if you're a family member of hers, but also because wonderful support here. Also, she is chair of the Opus Orchestra Trust and president of the Youth Philharmonic Tauranga and a playing member of the Bay of Plenty Symphonia. Now, I know she's probably cringing at that long introduction, but I'm really delighted to be working with Bronya here in Tauranga on a topic that was quite new to me, so I'm learning a lot from you. So I'll introduce myself. Ko Lynda Johnston tōku ingoa, he tangata mātai ma te whenua ahau. I'm a professor of geography here at Te Whare Wānanga or Waikato. My research focuses primarily on spaces of belonging and often for people who are marginalised due to their age or gender or sexuality, migrant status, etc. I recently was named Fellow Ngā Ahurei of the Royal Society of Aotearoa for my research within the social and behavioural sciences. I've had the role of president for the New Zealand Geographical Society, and I'm currently New Zealand's representative for the International Geographical Union. Some of you may be wondering, what's a geographer doing with this topic? So all will be revealed. So we will, for how this presentation will run, we will both speak to the content, and we are dying to hear your feedback on this particular research project. So we'll be opening up for questions and comments at the end. And we're sharing with you today some of the research about the role of our very own performing arts venue, Baycourt, in the lives of children and young people. And this is an interdisciplinary study looking at the influence of place on young people and vice versa. We're really excited to share this research with you because, well, we're right based here within Tauranga Moana, and it's fantastic to see our young members here as well. Some of the artists are in the room as part of the project. So the study was inspired by three converging factors: the 40th anniversary of Baycourt, local government policy on arts and culture, and the development of Te Manawa Taki or Te Papa concept for the central city. To you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, the inspiration for this study, there was three inspirations. The first was this event. When I was 9 years old in 1983, my family and hundreds of others we were outside the racecourse along Cameron Road opposite Green Park School, waving to Princess Diana and Prince Charles as they came to open Baycourt. And I vividly remember that day, and also the first time I went to Baycourt, which was to a production of, it was called The Great Waltz. I know they had really fancy dresses. The Great Waltz, and which was probably put on by a predecessor of Tauranga Musical Theatre, I think. And from then until I left Tauranga to go to university, many of my experiences in the performing arts, both as an audience member and a performer, took place in Baycourt. So 2023 marked, as Lynda said, marked the 40th anniversary of Baycourt. Baycourt's owned and run by Tauranga City Council, and it's our largest full-service theatrical venue, and our primary performing space for both visiting productions and community productions. And so there's a lot of annual events also take place in Baycourt, like the Jazz Festival, the performing arts competitions, school productions, all those sorts of things. Baycourt's predominantly a venue for hire. It only has a small budget to put towards programming. The only official booking policy is to prioritise arts events over non-arts events, such as conferences. There are no targets relating to community versus commercial content, but local non-profit organisations and local organisations that put on events for children and young people get a 50% discount on the booking fee. So the main auditorium at Baycourt, as I'm sure you all know, I'm assuming everyone's been to Baycourt at some point, is 585. And which is very small and is recognised as a bit inadequate for the size of our city now. So when Baycourt was built, the population of Tauranga was about 53,000, and now it's triple that at about nearly 162,000. So it's very small for the population. And because of its small size, it makes it uneconomic for some larger touring productions, so they end up not coming. So Baycourt has now been the main performing arts venue in Tauranga for more than a generation, and it's much loved by many in the community, warts and all. Based on my own experiences and my fondness for Baycourt, my memories of Baycourt, I realised that for people my age and younger, many will have a lot of memories about their experiences in Baycourt. So that was the first inspiration. The second inspiration was the development of the City Council's Arts, Culture and Heritage Action and Investment Plan, which is a bit of a mouthful, 2023 to 2033 last year. So back in 2018, Tauranga City Council and Western Bay Regional District Council, worked with Creative Bay of Plenty to put together a 3-year arts and culture strategy. It was quite thorough, but from my perspective as a music educator and researcher, the major weakness of that strategy was the absence of children and young people. In fact, children were only mentioned once in the entire document, and that was in relation to the intention to map their participation. Now, I understood a mapping exercise did take place, but it only collected data from secondary school students, not younger children, and the findings have not been acted upon as far as I know. So when that strategy was reviewed, and that fed into the new Arts, Culture and Heritage Action and Investment Plan, but disappointingly, children are also absent from that plan. The new plan acknowledges that there's potential to engage young people in the arts and that the arts can have a positive impact on the well-being of children and young people, but there are no action points specifically relating to children, young people, or families in the arts. So by investigating the experiences children have had and continue to have at Baycourt, we hope to highlight the importance of including and consulting with children and young people in future strategy when it's next reviewed. Hopefully sooner than 2033, in fact.
My turn, isn't it? Switch off. The final inspiration for the study was the recent commitment of Tauranga City Council to the redevelopment of the area around Baycourt into a civic precinct. So Te Manawa Taki o Te Papa, focusing on culture and heritage. So this new site or this new plans will include a library, museum, exhibition space, civic meeting space, the renovation of Baycourt, and potentially in the future a conference venue and a performing arts centre. Now, we are very excited about this because as the campus is very close to this particular civic precinct, so we've been keeping an eye on it. Te Manawa Taki o Te Papa is concerned with future arts and cultural strategies, and we believe it is vitally important that children's experiences of the arts and culture are considered during all stages of this development process.
So the overall aim of this research project was to explore the role that Baycourt has played and continues to play in the lives of children in our city. That's a really beautiful photo of Lynda and I with Shana, who is here. Shana Steer, who was our research assistant, our summer scholar, and she worked with us on the first stage of the project. And we've actually had two other research assistants as well. Jenny Cross, who helped us with the work with the children, and Lisa Steed, who sort of put together the displays out in the foyer. Oh, sorry, you're next.
Oh, I think I was. Now, you talked about the aims. Yes. Existing literature. Let me just spend a few moments talking about what has already been done in this field. So children's experiences in performing arts venues, the literature on this is quite limited. There's some research about children attending a theatre and live music, but this usually focuses on their experience of the event rather than their holistic experience per se. Children in museums have received more attention. For example, you can see on the slide there, Haggett and others at Sheffield Hallam University have written about young children interacting with museum spaces. Priscitelli has written about children's museum experiences in Australia. And in terms of the role of arts venues in cities, we're influenced to some extent by sociologist Eric Klinenberg, particularly the book on palaces for the people, and also we're influenced by geographers Alan Latham and Jack Layton, who discuss the importance of community spaces or social infrastructure in affording opportunities for people to interact and build community. Over to you.
So we're particularly interested in the concept of cultural citizenship and how that relates to children. So cultural citizenship recognises that to fully belong in a society, you need to be able to experience cultural belonging, not just political citizenship. And this is enshrined in Article 29 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. An intention to develop children as active citizens is also expressed in the New Zealand curriculum through the key competency participating and contributing, which states students who participate and contribute in communities have a sense of belonging and a confidence to participate within new contexts. Supporting children to become active citizens requires an understanding of how that process works, how citizenship identities develop. So being too young to vote, children are marginalised by the idea that citizenship is only about political rights and responsibilities. For children to children's understanding of what it means to be a citizen develops in relation to their experiences of belonging in communities. So one of the ways that children and young people can experience that belonging and develop cultural identities is obviously through the performing arts. The performing arts provide opportunities for children to explore what we call possible selves, so the people they could become. And through the arts, they can try on identities and explore values and relationships. The performing arts also facilitates social bonding and group identity. And that enables children to experience a strong sense of belonging and community. Arts education researchers argue that education in the arts enables children and young people to participate in the cultural life of their communities, connect with cultural institutions, engage in social and cultural meaning making. And these experiences actively participating in their communities helps them develop as cultural citizens. So we were interested to find out about how experiences in Baycourt have influenced children, not just as individuals, but also as cultural citizens in relation to their communities and our city.
Marvellous. So the project has, as we mentioned already, 2 separate phases of the research. For each phase, we received ethical approval from the university. Phase 1, we examined adults' memories of their experiences of Baycourt as children. And in phase 2, we explored children's experiences, both as performers and as audience members. And we asked them about their ideas for the future. Now, the 2 phases are different, so we'll talk about them separately. Phase 1 is about remembering childhood and hearing from adults about their childhood experiences that they remember in and from Baycourt. Remembering is a process of making sense of the past in the context of the present and of constructing a relationship between the past and the present. So for us, this was a really useful way to look at the phenomena through memory, as we can identify what was important to the participants. And through remembering, our participants construct a narrative themselves about their experiences at Baycourt and what the meaning of those experiences are to their lives.
We've got one more.
Recruitment.
Oh, was it me? Okay, so for this phase of the study, we interviewed the main data was collected through interviewing people in focus groups and interviews, but we actually started the recruitment for this through a survey. So the survey went out through the Baycourt mailing list and through Facebook posts. The main purpose of the survey was to recruit participants to be, take part in the interviews and the focus groups, but we did include 2 long answer questions. What was your most memorable experience at Baycourt as a child or teenager? And what made this experience special or especially memorable? So 76 people completed the survey. 53 of those had experienced Baycourt as a child or teenager. And 52 of those, so most of those provided a written response to those long answer questions. So that actually became our first set of data, and our summer scholar, the wonderful Shana, analysed those responses as part of her summer scholarship, and she produced this award-winning poster. She won the prize for the best poster for summer scholars about that. So she identified 5 themes from that data: belonging, emotional response, family support, sense of achievement, and the importance of peers. I've got another one. Yeah, your turn.
To me. Here you can see on this slide, in addition to the survey, we recruited participants through social media, Facebook posts, and word of mouth. We held 2 face-to-face focus groups, 1 online focus group, and 6 individual interviews online. So for this phase of the research, there were 13 adult participants. Now, the focus group interviews were about an hour long, and the individual interviews were a bit shorter, 30 to 40 minutes. And you can see on that slide the demographics of the people that we talked to in these groups. And apart from two participants had experienced Baycourt as adults, all the participants had both performed and attended events at Baycourt as children. There are themes from this part of the project. 4 broad themes you can see there. Schools act as a pathway, facilitating equitable access to Baycourt. Participants felt a sense of belonging at Baycourt. Baycourt is a space that supports developing performance identities, and child or adolescent experiences at Baycourt were lasting and transformative.
So one of the things that became immediately obvious, it came through really strongly, was this idea of schools being a pathway into performing at Baycourt. Even in the survey, 17 of the survey respondents described their most memorable experience at Baycourt was something that they'd experienced through school. So that was like being in a school show or visiting Baycourt actually on a school trip. All the people we interviewed, as Lynda said, who had performed at Baycourt, had taken part in a secondary school production. So either on the stage as actors or in the pit as in the band. And other opportunities that were presented apart from the secondary school production, other opportunities for secondary school students were the Youth Jazz Competition and the Tauranga Jazz Festival, Stage Challenge and Rock Quest. Now, music teachers obviously played a significant role in enabling this between the school and and Baycourt, and several music teachers were mentioned a number of times. A few participants had also experienced performing in Baycourt as primary school children through their primary schools, and that was through the the primary schools music festival, the choir festival, and also through private dance schools, dance shows, and the performing arts competitions. Being able to access Baycourt through school is really important from a social justice and equity perspective. Through schools, children their families can't afford private dance lessons or music lessons, they can experience, they can achieve equitable access, and this highlights how important how important it is that Baycourt remains affordable and accessible to schools. Even though for Baycourt it probably seems like there's a flood of schools wanting to use the venue, it is actually really important.
The sense of belonging was a theme from this material. From the people that we interviewed, they had all performed in Baycourt multiple times, with many returning every year for a number of years to perform in dance shows, performing arts competition, youth jazz festival, school shows, some spending significant amounts of time there. Many of the participants described knowing the place well, and even going so far to describe Baycourt as a second home. And so in addition to this familiarity, the participants also developed a sense of a belonging through working with like-minded peers and supportive adults. From the survey, one person said, coming from a small rural school just outside of Tauranga, it was incredibly energizing and validating to spend a whole day surrounded by my like-minded peers. The arts were not often a priority at my high school, and it was such a relief to be in a space where they were valued. So a sense of belonging there was evident when participants mentioned the relationships formed at Baycourt. For some, this was connecting with same people in the competitions each year. For others, it was the bonds formed with peers during that annual dance school shows. For some, it involved physical relationships, and between our surveys and our interviews, we had more than one participant tell us that they had their first kiss at Baycourt. As one participant said, to think of all those people that I still, this many years on, have been connected to in some way. It's just so fascinating how the arts really do bring people together.
The participants described how performing at Baycourt, working with the professional technical team, and in some cases working alongside professional performers, that allowed them to envisage what it might be like to be a professional performer. They were able to try on more mature performing arts identities at Baycourt than they could in their school hall because of the professional atmosphere. One participant described feeling like you're really doing a professional sort of gig rather than just a school show. And she went on to say that performing at Baycourt gave her the opportunity to think all this might be a real thing that I could do with my life. And actually that person did go on to become a performer. So the professional status of Baycourt was seen as a stepping stone into a more grown-up world of performing. Oh, that's the wrong one. The participants also described aspects of their experiences at Baycourt that had a lasting impact on their lives. So this could be one-off sort of transformational light bulb moments, or experiences that contributed to personal growth and a perceived widening of perspectives, widening of horizons. So performing at Baycourt, the participants said it improved their confidence, helped them to learn to be a good sport, to deal with nerves, to be courageous, and it made them more independent. Many of our participants continue to be involved now in their grown-up lives in the arts as performers, teachers and arts management, or have continued their involvement in an amateur capacity. And we thought this quote was rather nice from one of our interviewees. Just having Baycourt there as a kind of central part of Tauranga, and just how you felt when you performed there, like you were doing something meaningful and, contributing. Well, it was pretty, I think, important. I would go so far as to say it impacted my whole life.
That was phase one. Now to phase two. And we focused in this next part on the perspectives of children at Baycourt. And to do this, we used drawing as a method, as you can see from outside, to elicit conversation with 5 to 12-year-old children about their experiences in Baycourt as audience and or as performers. Drawing is becoming increasingly common as an arts-based research method. Drawing can either be used as a data source in its own right, where the drawings are interpreted by the researcher, or as a method to elicit conversation. And ours is the second approach. We use it as a method to elicit conversation. There is quite a solid body of literature around arts-based research. You can see the book there, Arts-Based Methods for Research with Children. I have used drawing in some of my research, but that was with adults, and this was the first time that Bronya used any sort of art-based data collection method. So this was a learning process for us. We recruited participants by handing out flyers to parents and children who attended shows at Baycourt. Thank you, Baycourt staff, for letting us loiter in the lobby. And we were recruiting when the shows were either aimed at children or in which children were performing. So you can see on that slide some of the shows we targeted. We also used social media posts. And this slide shows you the overview of the participants that we recruited. And you can see there 19 participants, the ages, the gender breakdown, ethnicity. 10 of the children had performed at Baycourt, 9 had attended as audience members. We did 5 focus group drawing sessions, and we held those sessions here on the campus. Yeah. Over to you.
Yep. Okay. So in our drawing, the drawing sessions were, they took about an hour. We started off with introductions, and then we did a bit of a warm-up, which was based on Squiggler techniques. Squiggler is just a creative mark-making program that was developed through Auckland Art Gallery and Auckland University. So this is just sort of mark-making lines and squiggles and dots And so we did that, exploring different colours, and we shared our pages and drew on each other's pages just to get to know each other. It sort of broke the ice a bit. After that, we talked to the children about their experiences in Baycourt, and like Lynda said, 10 of them had been performers. Some of those 10 children had performed in Baycourt multiple times. Some were already quite seasoned performers. And 9 had experienced Baycourt through being in the audience. So we talked about how that felt. And then we asked them to try and draw how it felt to be in Baycourt. And we talked about so actually in the foyer, the drawings on the smaller display board, the double-sided one, is their expressions of how it felt to be in Baycourt. And we talked about their favourite experiences and their favourite moments in Baycourt. Then we asked them to draw, fresh piece of paper, asked them to draw their ideal performance space and from their imagination. So, yeah, we found the children were really happy to talk. Once they got drawing, they were really happy to talk about their experiences and their ideas. We had a few backup sort of prompt questions to ask if we needed them. We often didn't. So in relation to their experiences, the children, we talked a lot about emotions, actually, what it felt like. Many felt excited and happy. Excited and happy were the main things. And the children who had been performers, also nervous was the other main feeling. I did a little word cloud of all the feelings. We had, from the performers, we had don't want it to finish. We had don't know what to expect. I don't know what the audience will think. I don't know if I'll do it right. So a whole sort of uncertainty. Some of the performers were proud. Some felt encouraged when they saw their family and teachers in the audience. Occasionally they got bored. It was quite boring waiting backstage. You wait a long time backstage. One performer had performed so many times in Baycourt that she felt calm, and she was put in charge of a group of dancers, and she felt responsible. Sometimes performers felt confused. Can be very busy backstage for some of those shows. In the audience, the children were surprised, impressed, tired. It got late sometimes. And again, sometimes in the audience it could be boring as well. The children also spoke about, as well as the emotions, they spoke about the physical space. So the seating, whether it was comfortable or not, whether the seats try and grab you when they fold up. The lights were really impressive. The green room, how busy it was backstage, how the audience behaved. Some people were a bit critical about how the audience behaved. And of course the refreshments. So it's always nice to have an ice cream. So you can look at those pictures in the foyer, and on all the pictures we've written a little caption, and we've tried our best to sum up the essence of what the children were telling us in that little caption. So then we asked the children to draw an imagined place where they would like to perform or watch a performance. So if you could create your own performance space and your own performance, what would it be like? Or something similar. So most of the children worked within their existing understanding of what a theatre is. So we had lots of red curtains, lights, and often they added something, they improved it in some way or made it more suitable for them. Some of the children imagined themselves as performers, and in the pictures, some of them have put themselves on the stage, and some of them have put something on the stage that they'd like to watch as an audience member. And some of them have been very specific. On here, you can see that somebody has an Elvis Presley show. Another drawing is Matilda, and another one there's an animal acrobatic show. So something specific they wanted to see, but often they spoke about both, which is not really reflected in the drawings. They spoke about being a performer and an audience member. So reviewing the drawings and the conversations that we had about them, we noticed 4 recurring ideas, 4 themes. The first was accessibility. Audience experience, unconventional performance spaces, and providing alternative activities. So, Lynda.
About the themes. So several of the children considered how accessible their theatre would be in terms of their physical access and affordability. In some cases, and this included having the theatre close to their house, so they could easily walk there. Consideration was also given to parents with fidgety children. For example, several children provided monitors, so parents who had to take their children out of the theatre could continue to watch the show while having their children outside. Another good example of accessibility comes from Tallulah. Tallulah's ideal performance space was outside, and she spoke about wanting it to be not too pricey, more friendly, so that anyone can attend, and allowing people to come and go as they please. Tallulah spoke about having different seating options. People could sit on the grass or in recliner seats like at the movies. She also provided refreshments in the form of food trucks that would be close enough so you could get the food easily without missing too much of the show.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you did it. Sorry. The children considered the audience's comfort, making their spaces welcoming and by providing comfortable seating, food, and ensuring the audience had a good view. So in this picture, I thought was a good example of this. Josh, this is a picture by Josh. He is an experienced audience member at Baycourt. He's gone to a lot of things, and his ideas, as you can see from the picture, his ideas just came thick and fast. He was having the ideas faster than he could actually draw them. So he has got all sorts of different seating, and his idea was that, there was lots of different options in seating because everybody's different and might like a different sort of seat. So he's got warm lounges at the front there. Then he's got weird-shaped seats, in case you're feeling weird. He's got bean bags, and then he's got wheelchairs, places for wheelchairs. And I think inspired by the chairs that we were using when we were doing the workshop, we had wheelie chairs. So he had wheelie chairs as well, with the idea that if you're in a wheelie chair, you can sort of move to get a better view or a different perspective of the show. He's also got, and at the back, there's lounge seats that have little screens so the people who are far back can see better on their little screen. So lots of stuff there around audience experience. And of course, there would be yummy food. Many of the spaces were also multi-purpose, so it could be used for a whole range of different things, and several were outdoors. And outdoors performances, like we saw in Tallulah's one before, allowed better access, but also sort of equitable access for all sorts of people. And actually Tallulah, the one we saw before, she actually specifically mentioned children and the elderly. She was particularly interested in them. So in this drawing, you can't tell this from the drawing, but as Molly was drawing this, she was telling us that her theatre would have movable walls and a roof, so it can open up when it's sunny and close when it's rainy to make the most of the beautiful weather, or, to keep us dry. Lynda.
Thank you. And another theme from this material was about alternative activities, and several of the children planned options for people to, as we heard already, to move about or leave the show if they were bored. They were also aware of people not ruining the show for others by blocking that view or talking too loudly. One child created seats where, if you were bored, you could press a button and get ejected into a tunnel that takes you to a gaming room.
And then at the end of the show, you just whooshed back, so no one knows you were gone.
Exactly. Another provided a space for children to play with a TV monitor, so parents supervising children could also watch the performance. Some included other leisure activities nearby, such as a swimming pool or playground. The image you have on the slide here is another fabulous example. And you can see in this particular drawing that Sophia has imagined a kids area that has a little stage of its own, some dress-up clothes and props for children to use. It also has books and a candy stand.
Thank you. So when we first started planning this project, we wanted to know about how community art space like Baycourt contributed to shaping the performing arts identities of children and young people. What we've found is that the experience that children and young people have in Baycourt can be profoundly influential and formative on a personal level. So the powerful emotions, there's a lot of powerful emotions that go on, particularly when you're performing. And those create strong and lasting connections, both to the space and to as well as to the people you're with. Which I think is why so many people in the community are so fond of Baycourt. They've developed those really strong connections. However, more importantly, the experiences children and young people have in Baycourt help them develop connections with their community and allow them to feel part of their city. It was particularly interesting for us to see how the children in our focus groups put a real emphasis on inclusion. We were just amazed how much they thought about other people's comfort and breaking down barriers, and presumably they're barriers that they themselves have experienced. So they've had a good experience at Baycourt, and they want that to be available to other people. And so removing the barriers like the cost, probably lots of the children have said, parents have said, we can't go to that, that's so expensive. So they've said they want it to be cheap or free. Putting it close to their home, like we mentioned, being able to have a good view of the show, not having to sit still, all those things are related to inclusivity. So we were amazed by that sort of thinking about those things. This research shows that we can view Baycourt as a connecting space, a space that connects people with each other and with the wider community. So it acts as a connecting point between children's everyday sites of cultural participation. So by everyday sites of cultural participation, we mean home, school, anywhere where children consume and create culture, even the dance schools, the music lessons, those sorts of places. And Baycourt connects those places to the wider community. By facilitating experiences that expand that everyday cultural participation, and through enabling a strong sense of belonging to a public venue, Baycourt acts as a site for the development of cultural citizenship. This research highlights how important it is that children and young people are able to access Baycourt, and that this access needs to be equitable and inclusive, so as many children and young people as possible can benefit from the opportunities that Baycourt can offer. Having an intentional focus on including children and young people will have a lasting impact on the performing arts in Tauranga for generations to come. Thank you. So we just want to thank a couple of people before we take questions. We are going to take questions. So big thank you to our participants, the people who filled in the survey. Maybe some of you filled in the survey. The adult participants who came to the interviews and focus groups. The children, some have come along. The children and their parents for bringing them. Baycourt staff, thanks so much. Tauranga City Council supported us with some funding for our summer scholar. And also the University Strategic Research Fund supported us for the second phase of the study. And thank you all for coming. So we have time for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Oh, good. Yes.
Just in terms of a child's age, is there a critical period that is beneficial for the child to be exposed to the audience?
So the question, I'll just repeat that so everyone can hear, is there a critical time for a child to be experiencing performance?
As you mean as a performer?
As a performer or audience?
As a performer.
Yeah, well, if you think we spoke to children as young as 5, and the adults spoke a lot about what had happened when they were teenagers at secondary school, and it's all obviously influential. So I wouldn't say so, but the thing is, if children, as adults, we actually don't get that many opportunities to start being performers. Perhaps we get busy with our lives and things, and I mean, you could join a amateur dramatics group or something. But I think it's really important that there is research that shows that if children have attended the arts as children, then they're more likely to continue being involved in the arts. And yeah. So not really a critical age, but yeah, childhood.
Childhood
Yeah,
on that sliding scale.
childhood, adolescence.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Has this inspired any more future research projects or ideas?
To reiterate the question.
So Shana's asking if this has inspired any further research. In a way, the research project that I'm hoping to move on to next, that I'm actually starting, is actually with an arts organisation, looking at how that organisation works with children. So it's sort of linked, but not as a space. I haven't got anything, yeah.
And we have such amazing rich material from this particular project. We feel like we've got plenty to get on with at the moment. The lecture here we're giving today is just one of many ways in which we're distributing the results of the research, and there'll be more writing up of it to come and more publications as well. Yeah.
Shana, did it inspire you?
Oh,
Come and tell us.
Well, it's inspired me. So I studied political science at University of Waikato, and I just finished. But I was thinking of looking into it for masters.
Oh, good.
Or looking at going into the arts sector and the policy side. It's something that I would like to go in the future.
Nice. Excellent. Cool.
We talked about how the theatre's too small for going out, and I'm a dancer, and so we don't get the ballet here except for Tutu's on tour. So are they looking at extending the theatre to make it?
Well, I don't think they will extend. I don't know what the plans for Baycourt are. I know there's plans for renovation, but I'm looking at the Baycourt manager at the back there. But I'm not going to put her on the spot. But in the original plans for Te Manawa o Te Papa, this civic development, there was a conference and performing arts centre on the other side opposite of the road, opposite Baycourt. I noticed in the last thing I read that had sort of dropped off the plan. We can only hope that might come back. I don't know. It's all money, isn't it?
And so when you're encouraging people to use this and you're looking at the equity and the funding, where are you looking? Have you gone on to that next stage where you're going to get more funding from? Are you going to go private, council, government?
That's the council's job.
But can I just say there are elections, and please look at the people who are standing for local body elections here and make your decision accordingly.
Yes, and Creative Bay of Plenty put out a very helpful, they sent a questionnaire to all the candidates asking what their policies were or what their interests were around the arts, and so that's also very useful.
Question over here.
I don't know, sorry if you already answered this, but do you not telling the City Council to use your findings when they look to upgrade or redevelop?
Will Tauranga City Council use our findings? They've been sent a report from the first stage of the research because they were a funder of that, and they will receive, when I've written it, a report on the second phase. I don't know.
You hope so.
I hope so, yeah. You would hope that, it would sort of sink in.
Got a question here.
I'm just wondering why you used university premises for the focus groups
yes.
rather than the Baycourt itself.
Great question.
Actually, the original plan so focus groups were done at Baycourt with the adults, yeah. But the drawing for the children, the workshops were done here because we'd originally planned that they were going to be done at the art gallery. With the art gallery, they've got a really great education team. So they were going to sort of help us with that. But then the art gallery closed for renovations. And they did have another space there, but it was just as easy for us to do it on campus.
It does make the place of interviews or research activity does make a difference. So we tried to make our space as child-friendly and as open and exciting as possible. We had lots of different art materials to work with and refreshments. So hopefully hopefully we created the right atmosphere. Yeah, it does make a difference. I think there was another question.
And I think it was important because when we did the focus group interviews with adults, I remember a lot of them were like, wow, it's been so long since I've been here in such a good space. So I think it was a really important part of our interviews, which is something that I took away as well.
Yeah. Another fun thing we had at those interviews with the adults was there's big, Baycourt's got some big scrapbooks of cuttings from the whole 40 years of existence. And so we had access to those, so people could look through those and go, oh, I remember that, and that was when we were in such and such a show. So yeah, that was quite fun. Yes, Dale.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I was around in 1988 when Bob Harrison was manager. One of the drives that he did was we need to involve the schools to engage with the community, and it's really interesting hearing almost 40 years on that.
Yeah, and Bob was one of those people who came up often in the interviews. Yeah.
Your findings show, not surprisingly, that people who engage with Baycourt have found that it has a lasting effect on their life. What do you think about people who don't necessarily engage with the arts? What do you think their perception would be of the value?
Yeah, good question. Well, yeah, I guess you value those places that you use the most, you know. So if you're a surfer, you would value the beach the most, you know. So yeah, I think and that's the beauty of a community. We all have different interests and values, and yeah, the diversity.
I think that's the point. It's a great question because it is about having a diverse array of activities within a community so that you can meet the needs of all of us, and we're all very different, and we link to other people through different spaces. So yeah, that's another research project.
There's a lot of transferable skills too.
Yep.
Performance to other aspects.
Absolutely. Yes.
All those things
transferable
they were
skills.
saying, confidence, being courageous,
Yeah.
all those things, those are all life skills or
Yeah.
attributes.
I think we might have any final questions or comments. Oh, good. Great.
So the original Baycourt was known for its acoustics, right? So if you're going to a bigger event, it's a lot more expensive, the same materials. What sort of seating are you looking for when 500 is probably better for children's performances?
Yeah, actually, Baycourt has got the most amazing views. Like nowhere in Baycourt can you have a bad view, a bad seat. There are no bad seats. So that is one of the beauties of Baycourt. But yes, for children's shows, yeah, that's yeah.
So what sort of venue are you looking for?
Oh, I don't have any.
You know what I mean? Like, is that a new plan for a bigger venue?
Yeah. Well, it's just that there are shows that can't come to Baycourt because the stage is too small, or that the auditorium's too small to make it economical. So, where touring production could come to a bigger theatre and just do one night, and therefore only pay their performance and stuff for one night, and have earn a lot more from the big auditorium. They don't necessarily come to Baycourt, but in the stage-wise, for example, the ballet don't come for their full shows because the stage is too small. But they do brings occasionally, not very often, to tutus on tour. Yeah, so it's just what can come.
Doesn't that actually help children in the Bay? Having a smaller venue?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that venue is perfect for school shows and things like that. It's just, it's not really related to children that a bigger venue might be nice for Tauranga. It's more for everybody. Yeah, not necessarily specifically for children, no.
One more from Shana.
I also remember, I'm like relooking it. One of the participants, I think, was a teacher, and she mentioned that because I think she did a performance that had lots and lots of kids from different schools, and there was not enough seats for all of their families, so maybe a bigger,
Yes.
Yeah.
performance area would be great for all of the families to come. So that was an important part of what we found out as well. About building our culture.
We should be asking Rena to answer these questions.
The experts right here.
Okay.
Well, we are delighted that you've come to our presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight. Hopefully the presentation has given you lots to think about and maybe kindled your own memories of Baycourt that you may have had use that space when you were younger or have children that use it now. So thank you so much. Go carefully out there on this dark night. And we, once again, thank you for attending the public lecture. There will be more public lectures coming up and we'll notify you through the usual means of our email list. So, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.